Shannon, you were at the Lizzo show this last weekend, correct? Can you confirm that every woman in Sacramento attended that show?
I can, yes.
Literally everyone I knew was there.
Yeah, obviously, because we're not idiots.
I guess not. I am. I didn't know that show was even in town. And then I went on social media.
Sounds
and I
like
was
a white man
literally,
problem to me.
I mean, that's true. That we certainly have our share. Am I right?
Were there a lot of men of color at the show?
I think my observation was that the masculine presenting people at the show were definitely not hetero. It's my favorite kind of show to be at.
That sounds like a phenomenal show, actually.
Oh, it was.
I heard it was very uplifting.
Oh yeah, I almost brought my tits out. So
awesome.
Yeah, but like you would have been doing that anyway, regardless of where you were or what was happening.
It's true. I do that just for shits and giggles on my front porch on a Wednesday.
Yeah. Shits and tittles.
At the Ramstein show.
Tittles.
No, I'm super pumped. I don't, I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know very much about Lizzo, but I am aware that Lizzo is like big into like body positivity and like self-acceptance and all that stuff. I think that's very, very cool. So I'm glad that y'all got to go out and celebrate together in a live setting, because that's always super fun.
We did indeed do that.
Your crew in particular, it was like the who's who of millennial women. I don't know if you're allowed to share this, but like I saw pictures of the show and I was like, oh my God, like Shannon's crew is they rolling pretty deep in the powerhouse field.
I think that all of the people that were there publicly shared that they were there. So I don't think that they're hiding it, but that was actually like I arranged for a bunch of people to meet up prior to the show because we all had tickets in different sections.
Oh, fun. Okay.
So there was a bunch of us that met up beforehand and then went on over. And then just lived our best, most life-affirming moments.
You were like on the floor, like really close, right?
I was on the floor, yes. I sold the tickets that I had purchased for the show.
Scalping, nice.
Like, well, yeah, except through Ticketmaster. So I was the one that was fucked in the end. I sold the tickets like 2 hours before the show and then bought pit passes. So I was like looking up Lizzo's nostril holes.
So that brings up a really important question. Like, was there a pit? Like, I hope that there was. Like, there was just like a
circle pit.
Did you mosh?
Yeah, like a circle pit. Yeah.
What? Just deciding whether or not she wants to lie.
Was there a mosh circle pit? Yeah. There was not the kind of pit that you are thinking. But in that pit there was a lot of shaking of rumps, and I was able to see that everyone around me had really good knees because they were dropping it hella low. But no, there was not an actual circle pit of moshing.
I actually think that I might prefer the booty shaking pit to a moshing pit because my knees aren't that good.
At this point in the game, like as a 39-year-old man, I agree wholeheartedly.
I would have preferred this in my 20s. Like
as a 40-year-old fat woman, even the shaking your ass kind of pit I'm on my third day of recovery on account of really working it and wearing the wrong shoes.
Love it.
So yes.
What shoes were you wearing? Because like I remember the days of being in the pit when you would have like Converse, and then in your 20s you could deal with that, but like the idea of wearing Converse to a concert now is insane.
The idea of wearing Converse period now is really difficult for me. I have fully started wearing supportive shoes, except for when I'm trying to look cute. I was wearing like the equivalent of like a trendy Western boot. Find photos
So
on my Instagram page.
I was recently at a show and kids were moshing in like sandals, which is, I feel,
No,
I mean, as a kid, I mean, have at it. I will tell you this though, I, in my youth, as a high schooler, went with some of my friends, my high school friends, that is, to see, I think it was Slayer open for Pantera in San Jose.
Yeah, you
and
did.
one of my buddies wore Tevas. And
Oh,
this
no.
dude had like half a toenail left by the end of the
Oh, my
night. It was
God.
fucking brutal, honestly.
I mean, same after the
and
Lizzo show.
you learn, you only have to learn that lesson once, I think.
Yeah, I feel like if you go to a show and you end up in the pit wearing sandals, you deserve to get crowd killed. Like, it's just like
Natural
you've asked for it.
consequences.
Yeah.
We call that natural consequences.
Can I just say, for especially for the enjoyment of the Nazis hate listening to this episode, Skylar used to go to Slayer and Pantera concerts, but the night of the Lizzo concert, he and I were at a spa.
That's true. How things have changed. We were pampering ourselves in the steam room.
Just getting some me time.
And that's what I got to do. That's what I should be doing.
The spa was actually filled with all of the men who weren't at the Lizzo concert.
True.
Yeah,
it was a man-heavy Asha trip. And now that I'm connecting,
that is because all of the women.
Makes a lot of sense. Yes, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Everyone, including mayoral candidate Maggie Krell.
Oh.
She went.
I do believe that was her. That I mean, her team is going to come for me.
She was like, I do believe that was the woman I punched in the face in the pit.
That's the woman I told to go to fucking hell. I hope you lose that race.
I think that's a perfect note for us to start the show. What do you think?
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And Shannon.
And Gabe.
Oh, yeah.
And we're here.
We're coming to you, entering your phone holes and then your ear holes on June 1st. It is officially Pride Month. Happy Pride Month, everyone.
My dumbass was like, it is May 31st.
It's when we record.
When we're recording.
People.
Yeah. But through your phone holes, it's June 1st.
Right. But if we are currently in your phone holes,
we're entering your ear holes from the past.
Ooh, time travelers.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, can we travel outside of 2023 then?
Can we just either go to the future or we just go to a better time?
Can we skip to
better
our deaths?
time. A better time.
Till the sweet, sweet release of life.
To the end.
Eternal slumber. For now, no, we must work and we must speak for the next 45 minutes on the issues of the day. But before I do that, well, before we discuss those, I would just like to say that, you know what? We love the work we do. And if you love the work we do, you should go to patreon.com/voicesrivercity. And for as little as $5 a month, you can help support the work that we do. It keeps commercials off our show. It keeps our lights on in our homes. And it keeps us drinking, not White Claw anymore, but whatever it is, we're drinking separately. Oh, there you go. Is that a Waterloo?
It is. Yep.
Wow. And yeah,
Waterloo.
So go to that. We're trying to do some events soon. We'll set a date. we're going into our summer break in mid-June, which will give us plenty of time to have a hang, I think. And the weather's getting nicer and everyone's looking hotter, and let's go out and have a good time.
Everyone's looking hotter.
Aren't they?
It is hotter.
It is. Yeah. Is that just me? All right.
You just look dewy.
Yeah,
Perfectly
I've been
dewy.
moisturizing. Oh, her. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
Actually,
no,
both of
I
you.
will tell you right now, I don't look dewy. I haven't had a shower since Lizzo.
That is awesome.
got to keep the experience on you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
don't
got
want to
that
wash it
Lizzo
off
glow.
in case
Yeah.
I got any of her sweat on me.
Let's start with a little recap today. As we mentioned in almost the entire last episode when we had Keon visit us, this Nazi named Ryan Messano keeps coming to Sacramento City Council and really during public comments spouting some real disgusting, shitty, anti-Semitic shit, directly at our mayor, who is a Jewish man, and one of our council members is also a Jewish woman. And it just really fucked up, and so folks have been saying maybe we should do something about this, even if we're not fans of the people up on the dais. And it seems like people have really started showing out after last week's meeting, or during last week's meeting. The Nazis got shut down. Ryan ended up bringing a Proud Boy by the name of Jeffrey Perrine, pretty violent, shitty dude from the foothills, and a member of what is called the Goyim Defense League. Is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
And he's given us data points on who he is, because he went on one of their TV shows the day after that event. And then two other guys who I don't really know who they were. A lot of them masked up. They're kind of cowards. They don't want people to know who they are. But they got shut down, and then they got pushed out of City Hall. They tried to ask the cops to walk them to their cars, and interestingly, the cops actually refused to do that. So then all the Nazis ran to Perrine's little van, according to the show that I listened to the other day, and then just drove around town for a while until things cooled down for them. So yeah, I mean, that was an interesting storyline. What it read like to me was a win for the people of Sacramento. I don't. What do you think, Gabe?
No, I agree that definitely people showing up last week and shutting him down, demonstrated hopefully to everyone that Sacramento is not gonna sit idly back and have this shit anywhere, and I think that what is really beautiful about those moments is that it really highlights how quickly people in Sacramento are able to kind of put aside their differences and work together to make sure that a very consistently strong anti-fascist stance is being taken. But of course, people like Perrine and Messano are their attention seeking pieces of shit, and they really, really love the media responses to their activities. And of course, as soon as that meeting was over, Messano in particular, who loves to post on Twitter very long written pieces that no one reads about how he's going to continue doing this, and they got all their Nazi buddies to talk about how we got to show up, we got to go to Sacramento, this is our next, the next tool in our toolbox. We got to show people this is how we are going to make change. We got to expose, all of the bullshit conspiracies that they think.
We are fearless lions. We're gonna go out there and speak truth to those people of Sacramento. But lo and behold, Sacramento was expecting them to come back this week. They said they'd be back. And lo and behold, City Hall, there's another city council meeting, of course, this week. There was actually a press conference beforehand with community faith leaders saying that, you know, they reject all of their bullshit and, you know, this is bad. And I mean, we can talk about some of the other things that happen in city council chambers too. The lib responses.
Love
But
wins.
but you know, by and large, the community showed up again. The community was I would assume ready for them to come, hoping for them to come even, and they bitched out.
They were busy.
Yeah, they had a
other
scheduling conflict, according to
there
Ryan
was a
Messano.
conflict.
Yeah, like
Scheduling conflict.
He at the last minute realized that he had no friends and he really desperately needed to try to make friends. So that was the conflict of scheduling. And I hope that he hears this episode, because I just want to say, you know, we see you for the terrified little child that you are. And you know, the game that they spit, and it's always the same thing. You know, Perrine did the same BS when he was out in front of you know, that pastor's house out in Loomis.
Right.
You know, he showed up at that pastor's house a couple of nights and then was like, well, I'm going to be out here every night, and then he did it twice. Oof. You know, it's like they talk all this game and then they get pushback from the community and see that, you know, people are willing to stand up to them, and then they hide and cower like the children that they truly are. And, you know, then they call in for public comment.
They did. They called in for public comment. A couple funny things here. One, during the first public comment, I hopped over onto Ryan's Gab to see if he was gabbing about anything. That's the Nazi Twitter. And he did this post where he's like, I'm trying to call into Sacramento City Council and it's saying there's no meeting when there's definitely a meeting. Of course they would do this.
Yeah, that's a problem that only you experience, Ryan.
So not only did he bitch out, he was sitting out in Vallejo because he realized that Sacramento is not Vallejo. He also was having technical difficulties as the 43-year-old virgin that he is. And so he wasn't able to comment in the first one. But Jeffrey Perrine, to his credit, actually can work a telephone and called in during that portion. I assume they had a little bit of back and forth after that on how to do it. Like he gave him some IT troubleshooting because Messano did eventually at the end of the city council meeting get a comment in, very last comment of the night. And yeah, I mean, it first of all, I just want to say thank you to every community member who went out and who showed them physically that you're not welcome here. I think that was really important. And I think that it's something that like not everyone is willing to do. And like, I just think those people, it just means the world to the city, because our city council does not have, you know, the fortitude to shut these Nazis down within the chambers. They will give them their public comments. They will allow them to continue to do this. So it's up to the community to push back. What we saw this week was council decided that the way to defeat the Nazis was to have a local artist make a poster that reads "Love, Not Hate" and hold it up whenever a Nazi talked in public comment. And I don't know, what do y'all think? Did it work?
No, yeah, the Nazis will never be back. They're done. They were infected with love, and we will see them at the local pride parade where they are the grand marshals.
Just Messano and Perrine just sucking face right in the middle of the pride parade.
I want to say that
didn't fucking work.
I do want to say that the critique that I'm about to levy is not against either the artist or the idea of the message.
Not. Absolutely not. Yes.
Now, with that being said, I do think that obviously people who hold positions of power using that as the method of combating open fascism is just like repulsive, I think is the appropriate term. And I do understand, like, I'm not asking, well, maybe I am asking for our city council members to circle pit these guys. But I know that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I do also know that there are a myriad of tools that they could use and utilize to shut this down that were not used, and that this, as the chosen response, like they chose this response. They had a smorgasbord of hors d'oeuvres that they could have taken little bites from and maybe come up with something a little more effective, but choosing to just turn your back, and I think that is overall the kind of expected liberal response that you can get, is that
It had
turn
a
your
kente
back on
cloth
them.
vibe to me, right?
Yep.
Like Pelosi kneeling in a kente cloth.
Yep. Yeah. It was pretty sad.
It's just like something as toxic and like cancerous as having Nazis show up and spew a bunch of fascist hate speech cannot be passively interacted with in order to bring it to an end. Like, the rules of engagement are, the more passive you are, the more control they take over. And it's not, it's is it a like warm and fuzzy and like, oh, that's cute, like, response? Yeah. I mean, like, I get it. I also 100% like understand the love not hate movement and like the call to like to nonviolence, but that's not, we aren't dealing with a situation that calls for that. Like, yeah, and it is really frustrating. It's like, what the fuck do you think is gonna happen when these motherfuckers call and like, and you stand up and hold signs up in response to them just spewing a bunch of fucking hateful bullshit? Like, that's not doing anything. And also, like, if the whole thing is that Sacramento would lose in court, like, we don't want to give these guys a leg to stand on in terms of like legality. I mean, dude,
They wouldn't take it to court. They wouldn't.
it's not gonna go that far. Like, and even if it did, then like, let's be the place that says we believe that fascism is so toxic and this like Nazi bullshit is so fucking horrible that we're gonna fight it even if it means that we lose in the court.
Right. Right.
Like, because you can't. There is I honestly, I just feel like the more I think about it, the more I like was watching those videos back from council, it just is like, it's disappointing, but even more than that, it's like infuriating that, because I think the other thing is that once again, we are being shown like outright where our leadership stands, and where they stand is that they are not willing to put themselves out there for the people of Sacramento. They are going to have a response that keeps them comfortable. And that it's disappointing. Like,
yeah.
it sucks, like, but it also reminds us that community takes care of community.
It's there. I also think that I think so many of us have been so fucking sopped our entire lives in this First Amendment purity mindset. And I think city council, I think politicians are almost as badly as journalists, still soaked in that. But I think you're right. I wish they would. I wish they would take it to court. I wish they'd find a way to and dare the Nazis to take them to court, because like even if we lose, I'd prefer our tax dollars in this city, like as opposed to going to defending killer cops in the courts. This is a much better use of our money. Much better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's not like one of the wildest things about this whole situation over the last number of weeks is that we are seeing people who otherwise would like go to blows in the street, conservatives and leftists come together and be like, yeah, this shit fucking like down with the fascist Nazis, right? Like, so there is evidence that there are lots of people like at both
Potential
sides,
support, right?
Right.
people who would be down with that, right? Like I don't know.
But the issue must be forced, right? You know, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. You know, I was thinking about, you know, the guy that gave the Nazi salute at the meeting last week. I was watching, he was with this, you know, he had a shirt that said Goyim Defense League. So he's with this really vile fucking group of Nazis. And I ended up like watching this live stream of the guy who founded it. It's this like John Minadeo guy. He's from California, grew up in Marin County, but he had to flee California. Take notes, folks. He had to flee California because, or that's what he said. But you know, he said there was vandalism against his house. So like he did a show, and like this is, I don't think I can overstate how really gross this was. I don't think I've seen the salute more times in my life. I don't think I've heard more racial slurs in the course of 2 hours in my life. It was really fucked up. But they did discuss what happened in city council last week, and that's why I went and watched it. And he had the guy that gave the Nazi salute on the show. He kept calling the guy Scotty. I'm interested to know maybe that they grew up together, something like that, but they definitely know each other quite well. And just I don't know, thinking about that, it's a reminder that these people do exist, but I'm always oscillating between, you know, and they exist nearby us, but I'm oscillating between how much they matter, how much we need to, you know, how much air you give them, and then also like, do they matter at all, right? Like Messano is legitimately a religious zealot who's a 43-year-old virgin who's obsessed with, you know, his he's basically fallen down a Q hole. So how much do they matter?
Well, I do think that this is also a really good opportunity to highlight the fact that Messano himself tries to distance himself from these people that he hangs out with or that support him. Like
Right.
he wrote on his website that he, you know, admonished the fact that like the guy threw up the Roman salute and that he thinks the Proud Boys are CIA operatives, but yet will sit with them, you know, as long as they're able to propel his message. So he's either a useful idiot to them or they really you know, that they don't really care that who it is that they align with. And I think that that's kind of a good comparison to the national scene with like Trump. You know, it's like the conservatives didn't necessarily care about particular views as long as he was able to propel their desires into the national arena. So I feel like, you know, if Messano truly isn't, you know, doesn't want to align himself with White Lives Matter or Goyim Defense League or the Proud Boys, like, well, you're being used by them, and you're real fucking stupid if you haven't figured that out.
And I don't know, if you go through his socials, it takes about 5 minutes before you start seeing him repost things by people whose AVIs are Hitler and, you know, or a swastika. Like it does not take long to see that he agrees with the viewpoint. He just doesn't like cursing, you know?
Right.
He just wants to marry a beautiful 18-year-old virgin.
Oh, the fucking groomer, man. Oh my
He
God.
just his hashtag goals. He has them.
I know that there are so many that are waiting for a lion like him to take them into
Well,
his pride.
apparently multiple beautiful women are turning 18
Every minute.
day.
Every minute.
Every minute. That's right.
what
Every
it
minute.
is.
And they're submissive and they're just ready for him to shove his giant hog in their giant downstairs.
All right.
Ryan, we wish you nuptials in the future, so you don't have to go to city council meetings anymore. Like, get a hobby. Just fuck once, man. Just try it. Like,
use the time that you would otherwise spend calling or coming to Sacramento City Council to talk all your nonsense, stretching it. Just get in there,
get it out,
and work that hog. And you will feel better about your
I think you will. I think you'll have like
stretching is healthy.
You'll feel like so much less of a Nazi afterwards. I guarantee it.
You will be open to a whole new world.
But you know,
joy and exercise.
It's very hard to seg from Ryan's hog, but I'm gonna try. You know, we talk a lot about the far right people coming onto City Hall, and like, you know, I think a lot of them are like, oh, maybe this is our next thing, you know, blah blah blah. Go ahead and try, guys. But what we're also seeing, what we've been seeing in the last year or so, that has been most concerning, I think, is the attack on the LGBT community, most in particular the trans community. And you know, this trans women in the United States die at an alarming rate, and they die very violent deaths because there is so much hatred towards them, and it skews towards trans women of color. And as we are in Pride Month, and as we are in this political climate in our country where all of these anti-trans laws are coming out, they're calling, you know, and then like they'll call drag queens groomers and stuff because of their drag queen story hour. I feel like the temperature is incredibly high and things are going to get dangerous because there are many reasons for the far right to come out and make some real fucking trouble. And we saw something happen in Davis just this last week. Does anybody, Gabe, do you want to give a little background on that?
Sure. Yeah. So I think it was a Montessori school that they had painted, you know, essentially a pride flag on a crosswalk, and then, you know, received some pushback from people who either are from the community or pretended to be from the community, because we've seen a lot of times where you have this kind of backlash that people who are not from the area will call in or cause trouble, despite them actually not being from the area that they're you know, pretending to be. And essentially the city came in and painted over it. Now, I think what's really interesting about this is that we've seen a lot of capitulation to the most frothing mouth lunatics in our society, from otherwise people who mean well. A lot of times they don't mean well. A lot of times they're just companies trying to make money and they just go where they think the money is going to be. But in this situation, you know, you had someone who was out there protesting while it was being painted over, protesting in favor of it being painted over, protesting and, you know, against it being painted there. And the city's response was that, you know, they weren't doing it to capitulate to these folks. You know, they were doing it because there were some other you know, city guidelines that weren't necessarily followed when this project was taken on. But I do think, you know, there was some thoughts about those who had been calling in or emailing in all actually being the same person. There wasn't any concrete evidence that it was multiple people that were complaining about it. And it's hard for me to think that that didn't have an impact on the decision to paint over it. Like, sure, there
That's
might
what
have,
I was thinking.
yeah,
If
there
there's
might
not a
have been,
call from some asshole in the neighborhood, they just leave it.
right,
You know,
Right.
right.
they come up you come up with a code reason to get rid of it
Mhm.
after the fact because you don't want the smoke, right?
Mhm.
And the woman who's starting all of this, and thank you, by the way, to a comms person for Davis Pride who got back to me so fast. It turns out that the Davis resident who's starting all this protest bullshit against Davis Pride and these rainbow crosswalks and all the streets by the schools, she is backed by Moms of Liberty, which is the far-right group based out of Florida.
Weird.
Another far-right group based out of Florida trying to fuck with our region. The Goyim Defense League is also, I believe, is in Palm Beach. So it could have been all this woman. It could have also just been a bunch of assholes from all over the states, because like there's not a lot of these far-right people, but they are connected pretty well online, and so they'll just be little hornets on different little things to send rage at throughout the country. So yeah, and then the result is like what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, the Moms for Liberty group in particular, you know, these are just a batch of these like super right-wing nonprofits that exist for, you know, all sorts of spurious reasons, but they are behind some of the most atrocious like book bans in Florida. So the fact that like this person is weaseling her rat face, I don't know what she looks like, I'm just assuming she looks like
Probably
a
a rat.
yeah, into Davis.
God, I hope she's not hot.
You know, it's pretty alarming. And I think that with this being Pride Month and there being so many events that will be sprinkled through you know, the Sacramento region over the next 30 days, that we already know that the Proud Boys are declaring June, you know, Proud Month or whatever the fuck they called it as in opposition to Pride Month.
Do they have to be so fucking dumb?
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
so
Like
they
like
you're boring. You're
so
boring
dense.
me.
Yeah. And we saw it last year, you know, with the Modesto like straight pride situation. Like they're
Like,
they can't ever, they don't have an original thought in their head, so they have to latch on to any person who's experiencing joy and try to demolish that, you know, the little that we're able to fucking scrape off the surface of living in late stage capitalism or end stage capitalism. And there's like Messano, this situation, like we have a lot of amazing, incredible people in Sacramento who are doing the work to keep people safe. And it is there's a point in time where it feels almost as if we're constantly just putting out fires, like and living in California, you know, we talked about it that one episode. It's like, we got a lot of fires to put out. And they like to set these little fires and then, you know, run back to their safe holes in fucking Florida or in Placer County, basically the same place.
safe holes.
Safe holes. Placer County, the safe hole
The safest
of
sort
Nazi
hole.
California.
Yeah, it really is. Or Idaho, you know, their own private Idaho. I'm sure that they would be really mad about that, considering the B-52s. I'm pretty sure like half of the members are queer identifying people. But should have thought of that before they took over Idaho. But yeah,
Again, real dumb.
They don't think ahead. They're a drinking group. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So we should expect more. You know, the folks at Pride in Davis are expecting demonstrations from that Moms for Liberty lady. And there's concern. There's always concern, because who else is that going to pull, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's this weekend. I don't know if folks want to, I don't know. I don't know what the ask is there, but you know, that is a concern that Davis Pride is having. They're also having just some fun events this weekend, so check that out. But you know, the weekend after this is going to be the Pride Parade and celebration here in Sacramento. You know, June, I don't know what that would be, like 8th through 10th or something. 10th, yeah, 9th and 10th. And so we probably have to be ready for that too, you know. And I don't know, like it's all intertwined. There is that increased chatter, and I think we are seeing, you know, we've seen a lot of articles that are saying we're seeing an unprecedented amount of hate speech and action throughout the country. And it's something that, like, you know, even though I kind of look at these guys sometimes, I'm like, you're fucking worthless, like, and you don't have anyone with you, like, also you have to take this seriously. There's always that sort of dichotomy to this.
And I do think that there's a lot of, you know, people who got sucked down the Q hole and in their deep conspiracy theorist fucking, you know, basements where they see things like Target capitulating or Anheuser-Busch capitulating, and they see that as the win that it is for them, and they're emboldened to do even more, you know, so that if they then use that to launch an affront against real people in real time on the street, they will do it. And you know, we need to be able to fully analyze these threats and act accordingly, and these people aren't going anywhere. It's just going to get worse.
Well, the libs aren't helping us.
Yeah.
And I think like, you know, we're saying it broadly, like that, where you started with the trans community being attacked just outright, you know, and like trans deaths being so high.
Sorry.
I'm not laughing at trans deaths.
No, Gabe was gesticulating because he has a UPS package coming that he warned us about.
Yeah, so there are signs.
It was taken care of.
Being given.
It's taken care of. Okay, good.
Yeah, just like these, I think, you know, we talk about these, you know, far right fuckers being just like total idiots, and you don't know sort of like how weighted the threats are. But like, you know, hate speech is hate speech, and people having to stand on the other side and hear that is enough for the community to like come up in arms in action against that. And I think especially like with Pride Month, like queer folks are attacked at devastating rates, like, and yeah, if ever there is a time to like pause and really, like you say, Gabe, like analyze the sort of like validity of, you know, the hate speech, the threats, all of it, like this is it. And just be, you know, being aware, like standing in solidarity as we are out at, if we're going to events, like making sure that we're also just like looking out for our pals.
Yeah, it really is. It's a protect them, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's...
and I would rather take the time to show up 100% of the time and not have anything happen than miss that one time that it does, you know. And I think that that's really important because, you know, yesterday them not showing up to council, I think, you know, a part of me is like, do they relish in the fact that they know that there's going to be a community response and then they just get to sit home while like energy from the community might be quote unquote wasted of, you know, but then I'm like, it's never a waste. It's never a waste. Even if they don't show up, it's never a waste. shows the strength of the community. It shows the love of the community, and it shows the abilities of people who are willing to make sure that everyone in our town, our city, in our country, in the world is safe on all those scales.
It's galvanizing. It
Mhm.
shows, that fuck you, no, and that there's more of us than there are of you, Should we've got some time for one more little topic. Can we hop
Let's
onto
do
that?
it. Let's do it.
Cannot wait.
I don't know if any of you read the Sacramento Bee. It's
What's
the
that?
daily. It's the paper of record for the Sacramento region.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I think I've even met a couple of the people who work there. I think one or two went to the Lizzo concert.
I may or may not have been hanging out with
Well,
one of
interesting.
the people that work there.
I wonder who it was.
Don't know.
Has not always been a friend of me. That's fine. It's fine.
So the Bee
Mm-hmm.
ran their editorial board ran an op-ed written by two prominent figures, so it makes sense that you would run it, local figures, by Jim Cooper, who is the new sheriff of Sacramento County. He's a former assembly member
And just
here
really
in California. And
really
Jeff
that guy.
Reisig, who is the district attorney of Yolo County, so Yolo County's top cop
Yolo.
/ lawyer. And they wrote a piece saying, we know how to end homelessness in California in just a year.
God, I just am so grateful that someone has finally figured it out.
Right.
And
I
who knew?
honestly felt like reading that headline was like listening to Trump say that he could end the war in the Ukraine in 24 hours. It's like, if you listen to our plan, we could end homelessness in a year. And not a single part of their plan mentioned affordable fucking housing. Not a
When does,
Oh
when
man, you
does it
buried
ever?
you buried
When
all
does-
you basically brought up the thing I was going to bring up later, but I mean,
Sorry,
yeah.
Dave.
So let's bring up what they posit first, right? Their
Oh.
claim. Their claim is we can end homelessness, and it's by now you might think what a sheriff and former cop and assembly member, he's all of those things, Jim Cooper, and his buddy, who's a district attorney in a conservative county, you might think you know what they're going to say. And you'd be exactly right. Their answer is apparently we're just not being carceral enough.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to do is we got to give this war on drugs a second chance. We've got to re-up our penalties for people who are in possession of hard drugs. And once we do that, they'll sober up and end up in housing.
Drugs really had us in the first half, but the second half, we're going to come back. We're going to take on drugs. We're going to show them who's boss. We're not going to let them win this war.
We're going to get rid of those drugs and everything is going to be great.
Okay, so first, let's just start about their introduction to this idea is that they lay on the fucking frosting so thick on this shit cake that they want to make sure that you don't realize that you're going to eat this shit cake. They just want to like glob on the frosting, and they just keep mentioning how all these other progressive states, like think about how all these other, like they have
Maryland,
the lowest rate,
Illinois,
New Jersey,
and
Michigan.
and Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New Jersey too. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, famous progressive states. And
zero
their
drugs.
zero drugs. And their answer to homelessness is well, you obviously need to be more fucking draconian with people who have hard drugs.
Let's
That's the
have
problem.
More laws.
Yeah, more laws.
If we can just have more laws and less drugs, everything would be fine.
We need to spank our homeless population just enough just enough so that they'll be encouraged to go into treatment and housing, and to obviously, to make this plan work, that means that we need to bloat the budgets of our police forces.
Right. It definitely doesn't mean increasing our social services, such as treatment programs. We think those are sufficient as they are. Like, people can apparently afford to go to them today, right? It's totally reactionary. By the way, Cooper is a Democrat. I don't know about this other motherfucker. Cooper is also known as a creep within the Capitol. So that's what they're positing, right? Like, if we get harsher on drugs, then we'll end homelessness, because to them the determinant of homelessness is drugs and mental health. Again, they're like, well, we'll force them into mental health services. It's like, what mental health services, motherfucker?
Dude, this is
what are you talking about?
This is a Sean Laloe take.
100%.
That, like, if you listen, fentanyl, heroin, like, all of these hard drugs are just running rampant through our streets, and mental health crises come as a result of them. And if we just could get rid of them, then the root cause of the homeless crisis will be eradicated. Like, the inability
so dumb
to see the correlation between capitalism and homelessness is so fucking appalling. Like, capitalism has created less fucking non-existent housing affordability. It has also created a situation where we don't provide supportive services for people. Like, and this includes folks who are not the stereotype that these motherfuckers are talking about, right? Like, just anyone trying to get, like, your average, like, if I were having a mental health crisis, trying to get support would be very difficult. And I am not a person that lives with more than a handful of barriers.
Right.
Not even half a handful of barriers.
Right.
Like, if you continue to cut the budget of, like, social services and community support so that you can pay people to sit in rooms and workshop ideas, like, then we're never going to get to the end of this.
Yeah. And I want to really stress this to listeners. You're probably housed, a lot of you. Actually, we do have a number of unhoused listeners and viewers, but, like, for those of you who do have housing and do even perhaps have insurance, think about how hard it is for you in Sacramento.
It doesn't fucking matter if you have insurance. Mental
health care.
Right.
You can't get a one-on-one with a fucking therapist if you have Kaiser. Good fucking luck.
Yeah, and if you're experiencing an acute crisis,
oh my God, yeah,
then forget it. I mean, also, and I think I've talked about this on the show before, like, the window of opportunity for a person who is deciding, that they want to live clean and sober is so small, right? Like, if you actually want to receive support for that, even if you want to receive support by way of harm reduction, but finding, and not harm reduction, the org, but harm reduction, the practice,
not friends of the show, harm reduction services.
Right. Yeah. Even that is difficult to find. Like, it just is not, it's non-existent in this community that there are timely responses to acute crises. Like, I mean, in the work that I do day in and day out, there are an increasing number of people experiencing mental health crises that we cannot find support for, because if you call 311 or 211, it's like, well, everyone's busy, whatever. If you call 911, well, they're all busy. I mean, this, like, recently happened where there was an acute mental health crisis where self-harm was involved, and the wait time was over an hour for somebody to respond.
Right.
And that's and if you're telling me that what we need is a larger police budget, well, that's who was responding, and it took them over a fucking hour. Like, this
And
is
and
this a
think
bad take. It's a
and
bullshit fucking take. Sorry.
thinking about like how the emphasis on the criminalization of unhoused people who use drugs, because that's not even taking into consideration the fact that there are plenty of people who are renters or homeowners that use hard drugs.
Right.
But this isn't about them, right? Because if you own a home, you can do however many drugs that you want. But if you're unhoused
Right.
and you're on the street inconveniencing people, you know, their ability to live in a world where they have to actually face the facts of capitalism, then, you know, that's the problem, right? And that we need to make sure that it's so disgustingly like paternalistic that their inability to not only recognize the primary contradiction with unhoused folks in our city, but also just the fact that they deem that they have the power and the authority and the wherewithal and the wisdom to end this massive crisis by just throwing them
Putting them all
to
in
the
prison.
cops. Yeah.
And that's the funny thing to me too. You know, like everyone in California who has read up for more than 2 hours on our housing crisis knows that our homelessness crisis is a direct result of affordable housing. Like, that's it. Our, you know, obviously is drug addiction and mental health a symptom of that? Definitely. Oh my God. You know,
Fuck
I
yeah,
am
you
more
try
likely,
living outside. Jesus
Yes.
Christ.
I'm
Like,
more likely to fall into addiction if I'm unhoused. I'm more likely to have mental health issues if I'm unhoused, and I have, you know, like any semblance of like a possibility of, you know, that happening to me, like housed or not. But like everyone knows that the rent is too damn high. If you look at, listen to the states he names. He's like, in Illinois, Michigan, and Maryland, you know, they said, you know, they have very low rates of homelessness, and that's because they have tougher drug laws. No, you fucking moron. It's not that. It's not causal over that. Let's look at the median rent in each of these states per Zillow. Maryland, median rent is $1,850. This is for like any number of bedrooms, so that it might seem high if you're in like a studio or one bedroom. Illinois, $1,795 is median rent. Michigan, $1,300 median rent. California, it's $2,950. It's almost $3,000 is our median rent. Like, people can't afford housing here. It's fucking math, man. And the fact that like this guy was a lawmaker, Jim Cooper, and this
now
other
he's the
guy,
lawman.
this other guy like went to law school, I should presume. And they're that fucking dumb.
I
It's
mean,
scary.
also, like, I think they're also dumb because it's like the amount of money that you would spend to do the shit that they're proposing is way more than if you were just to have affordable housing for people. Like,
Yeah.
making sure that we're supporting the whole like carceral system rather than supporting people with housing is exponentially more expensive.
It is.
Also, these two idiots have been able to do the thing that, like, you talk about, we often hear people talk about how complex homelessness is. Like, this is a complex issue.
So complex.
And these two are like, nah, it's not. Listen, here's what's up. It's just the fucking drugs, and we got to get a couple laws. And if we like deal with the drugs and the laws, then we can just end our homeless crisis in 1 year. So let's go ahead and start today. Am I right? Like,
Yeah. Listen
what
up,
the
folks.
fuck?
Here's our solution. Take them away, boys.
And what's sad is like how many people are going to read that and absolutely like nod along and be like, yeah,
Well, that's the
what we
thing.
need.
And we don't have much time, but like Chesa Boudin, the former district attorney who's of San Francisco, he's a great guy. He's a communist. He's a prison abolitionist. His parents were in the Weather Underground, and they were in prison for years and years and years for work they did with the Black Panthers. He wrote a piece on, I believe it was as we record. So he wrote it on Wednesday, May 31st in the Chronicle, why he's not running again for office or for DA, because he was the victim of a recall campaign by a bunch of conservative Dems, basically, right? Like conservative Democrats.
The best people.
Yeah. And he wrote in this piece that his biggest lesson was that, you know, so many people, and we all know this, we all fucking know this, they don't respond to data and facts, they respond to emotions, how they feel emotionally to something. So as you were saying, Gabe, like people are going to read this piece by Cooper, which, by the way, I think Cooper was legislating by emotions, because that's the worst fucking take on earth. You know, people are going to read that and be like, yeah, I don't feel safe, like lock them up, you know, like it's still that sort of red meat justice vibe that our boomer parents had in the 90s, and it's not going to go away soon. This is something it's seismic, it's a generational shift, it fades.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's you hear that especially a lot with like the boomer generation, that it's just like, I feel it in my gut, you know, it's like speaks to me in my prostate, which is where I need the most support at this time of my life.
Wow. Really got you there.
And makes my prostate beat.
It speaks to me in my prostate.
That's a line for the ages on the show.
It's a new sticker that will be made.
It's our next mug.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Next koozie. I mean, is there anything else we have to say on this?
Everybody that we have talked about on this program is the worst.
Yeah. Maybe the next episode will highlight people that are great.
You know what? That would be dope, but that's not our vibe here. So.
You know who wants to who actually has a good 50,000-foot view on public safety, and who has a good idea on where we should be actually funding public safety, is Dr. Flojean Kofer, who's running for Sacramento mayor, folks. FloForMayor.com. Check her out. We are nearing the first deadline of the, by the way, folks, I'm helping Flo out with her campaign. We are nearing the deadline for reporting, and that's very important for reasons of media, that you want to make sure you've raised as much money as possible by those deadlines, because you got to report it, and then the media makes determinations on if your campaign is serious or not. So June 30th is our deadline. So if you have not contributed to Flo's campaign, please do. Please talk to friends and family, and let's get moving on this. We are doing well. We've got some really good momentum, but we really want to blow this shit out of the water. So hop in and help out.